all the money that I made from the business, I put right back into the business. And so back in 2012, first year, 120,000 in sales. Next year, $500,000. Next year after that, 1.5 million. And it just took off. Year after that, 5 million, and then 10 million. So that all happened in a 6-year trajectory. Owned the company 100% myself, kept it very lean, probably too lean, burnt myself out. I wish looking back that I would have invested more into a team, and I would have invested more into myself to be a better leader, to help them get to do the things I wanted to do.
Welcome to the Growth Mavericks Podcast, where we know that entrepreneurship isn't just about strategy. It's about stamina. It's about disrupting your default and getting comfortable being uncomfortable so you don't burn out before you break through. I'm your host, Adam Callinan. Let's get to work. Our conversation today is with Alexandra Cristin. She has a fascinating story. She grew up in poverty. She won a spot at the Milton Hershey School, which we spent a lot of time talking about. It's absolutely fascinating. And she came out of that with really crystal clear ideas on legacy and ownership. In 2012, she launched Glam Seamless with $1,500, 2 colors in a Shopify store. She did no ads. It was just SEO and tons of content. And that played really, really well. It was perfect timing for the product. She turned that into an 8-figure exit, private equity. So we have some similarities there. We'll talk a lot about that as well. We spent a lot of time talking about constraints, which is something I'm gonna spend a lot more time developing content around because it's actually really powerful. We talk about them being a superpower, how dealing with SKU creep and margins, what most founders, or at least many founders, get wrong after an acquisition. She's super candid about her story and missteps. She's really upfront and honest, which is a great thing. In her latest ventures, talking about spending sort of without constraint, which is something that I have personally dealt with in building Pentane with some capital in your pocket. Totally different experience, and you just think about things differently. So staying on too long with that private equity transaction, getting burned out, and all the things that she's doing differently now. So this is particularly timely for you entrepreneurs and e-com founders and operators going into Q4, trying to think about what to cut, where to spend, how to keep your energy and mental intact. It's really, really an amazing conversation. So I hope you enjoy this time with Alexandra Cristin. Sweet. So you mentioned you live in the hills. What state are you in? What
Yeah,
part of
I'm in
the country or
California.
world?
So I'm
Okay.
in West Hollywood, California.
Oh, the Hollywood Hills.
Yes.
The fancy hills. Okay.
Yes. And where are you? Where are you
Amazing. I'm in Bozeman, Montana, but I lived in Manhattan Beach for a long time, for like
Okay, awesome.
10 years. We moved here in 2020 in early COVID. We still had a house in Manhattan Beach until last summer. So we kind of split
Perfect.
time.
I looked at farms in Montana. Montana looks so just away from everything and beautiful and restful. And you too had an acquisition yourself as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I did a couple in 2021. Bottle Keeper was that company. We got acquired by private equity.
That's amazing.
But we built that company in Southern California. I mean, our office was in El Segundo. So we were down in your hood. It was great.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay.
Yeah. So I did some digging around in prep for this conversation, and it seems that you have a pretty interesting backstory that probably led to or created the foundation for a lot of the success you had or have had thus far. So why don't we start there? Where are you from, and how does Alexandra get started?
1989, born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, to a single mother. The odds were against me. Literally, like, my mom worked 3 jobs, and it was not the idyllic childhood that you would want for a child. Long story short, the universe always has its way. You know, my mom always prayed. She always believed in a higher power. And I ended up at 9 years old getting into a boarding school. So the boarding school is called the Milton Hershey School, and it's a K through 12 boarding school in Hershey, Pennsylvania. That is one of the most hidden, underrated schools in all of America. Basically, the founder of Hershey Chocolate ended up starting this school in, I think, 1907, at first for boys, and it scaled to girls and boys. And basically, this is a free boarding school for children in poverty. The goal of the school is to help children escape poverty. So you go to this school, you can enter from all the way kindergarten up until 8th grade. They want you to go by 8th or 9th grade so that you get the learnings of the school. So at first 9 years, grew up really poor, really rough neighborhood, learned a lot of street skills, if you will. My mom went to jail several times. And, you know, at first, I thought when I was going through it, it felt very sad. But looking back, obviously, that built a lot of tenacity, grit, resilience within me, which obviously all those things are required for running a business. And then I went to this boarding school for 9 years. So the boarding school was pretty strict. It wasn't, what you think of like the Annie orphanage, not that type of vibe, but the boarding school was very focused on helping children from poverty who come from low-income families really get acclimated and adjusted to society, being a functioning, contributing member of society. And so that's everything from tucking in your shirt, folding your clothes a certain type of way, walking to school, 3 to 4 extracurriculars. They have a system and it works. When the children follow it, it works. So I was a really, really bad kid when I got there. There was a lot of work that they had to do on me. But long story short, over those 9 years, by the time you graduate, if you do a good job, they pay for your college. So they'll pay for you to go to a state school. So this school is amazing. It's literally still exists today. It's free. It's the most amazing thing. When I look back, I know that that's what inspired me to be an entrepreneur, to think about it. This entrepreneur created a chocolate company, made so much money, made his own town, made a boarding school and gave back. And it's just like today, that company obviously is publicly traded. Hershey company is publicly traded. 55% of the company's net profits go to the school. So the founder, the Milton S. Hershey, he already set in his deed of trust, and he's died over 100 years ago. Well, I think he's gone maybe 100 plus years. Talk about legacy. Talk about entrepreneurship. When I think of entrepreneurship, I think of someone like Milton Hershey, where he not only had a vision, and Hershey Chocolate Company was his third or fourth company. He had multiple failures. So I think that is just so ingrained in me, entrepreneurship and what that looks like. The story at the boarding school is told to us over and over again about him failing, him starting this chocolate company, him creating this school. And so when I look at those 9 years, not only was I given this very elite education that you with upper class families have for their children, right? The best schools, the best food, the best extracurriculars. I got that all for free. While also I got this beautiful message of entrepreneurship, and I saw subconsciously what it does. So that's what my beginning years looked like. Grew up really tough, and then went to this great boarding school that molded me with this, clear understanding of how much entrepreneurship could really change one's life.
You mentioned in the midst of that legacy, which is what I was thinking of, a lot of the time you're telling the story, what a legacy. I mean, I think, do people know that? That don't, that didn't come through that? Holy cow. On one hand, that's kind of beautiful that they just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Not for publicity, not for
whatever,
but what an incredible, that's that needs to be a documentary, like a movie.
And everybody knows Hershey chocolate, right?
Of course.
I'm pretty sure everybody, but nobody really knows about the boarding school, which is free and exists today. There's not even an application fee. Like a private school, there's an application fee. There is no application fee. It is literally free. And so in that, and I look back at how I got into the school, and my mom used to be a paralegal, and another paralegal told her about the school, and she went to go work at the school. My mom's friend, Donna, she's still there to this day, 25 plus years later, working at this school. So it just goes to show too, it's the organization itself is amazing and nobody knows about the school, but it really inspired my vision for legacy. So fast forward, I ended up graduating surprisingly because it's really strict. You've got to follow what they say. It's a strict school. You've got to follow the plan and you've got to do what they say. And so ended up graduating. And this is where my first risk-taking, came in play because, to be an entrepreneur, it's all about the risk. It's how much are you willing to stomach? How much are you willing to bet on yourself, invest in yourself? So at 18 years old, instead of going to the free school that I was offered, could have went to a free school in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, state school. I decided, you know what? No, I'm going to take out $100,000 in loans and I'm going to go to an elite private school in New York City. So that was my first decision at 18 years old. Could have just taken the free school, but for whatever reason, I had these wild dreams of moving to New York City and being a plus size model. Always grew up big girl. And I always decided, I'm going to go to New York and be a plus size model, but I'm going to go to college as a backup plan since 50% of it's already paid for, whatever. It's just loans. Like, who cares? So get to New York City at 18 years old at Pace University. Now, Pace University is a great school in New York. It's a business school. And this also changed my life. So when it comes to life and destiny, there's always certain things things happen for us. I truly believe that we all have a destiny. So I land in New York City, go to this business school. I'm studying marketing. And long story short, the school was, how do I put this? I'm trying to look for the right words.
You could just be honest. It's fine.
The school had a lot of wealthy kids there, my age. So my peers were very wealthy. Their parents gave them brand new BMWs to go to school. And I'm like, it was the first time at 18 years old that I realized I was poor because I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania with a whole bunch of other poor children at my boarding school. So it was the first time at 18 years old that I ever saw wealth, and I was blown away. I also used to nanny. And so the people I nannied for were executives. They were CEOs who worked in the city. And so my world changed at 18. So step 2, like risk taking, number 1, how much are you willing to risk? But step 2, changing your environment, right? I wasn't comfortable in this wealthy environment, but here I was in this I was actually in Westchester. So Westchester is a very elite part of New York. So nannying for wealthy families who were working like crazy, going to school with my friends who are now like going to Neiman Marcus with daddy's credit card and buying whatever. And then I happened to take a sociology course, which changed my life. So this sociology course really highlighted the differences between growing up, the classes, right? Classism 101 is one of the core things that we study. Poor people do this. Wealthy people do this. Poor people eat junk food and watch TV. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I was subjected to this poor life my entire life and I had no choice. And I got really angry. By the end of that freshman year, I got super angry that I was subjected to being a poor person. Now, I grew up overweight, remained overweight because I struggled with my weight, junk food. My mom never cooked, right? She's working 3 jobs. And I just was like, I cannot believe that I grew up as a poor person and I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a fighting chance. Like, I got really angry. So I think at that moment after the sociology class, I decided that I myself was never going to be poor and I myself was going to do whatever I could to build my own type of legacy and give back to people one day. And so that was kind of like where my life started to really change. I'm in this new environment and I'm like, I can't believe it. Like everything opened up for me. And I said to myself, this is it. I have to change my life. So am I talking too much?
No, the whole point is for you to be talking. So no, it's great. It's all the story. I mean, there's just these chapters. I always looked at life as a series of chapters. And I think that's important because you do need to come to a point and we're only at a freshman year of college and you can already see like these clearly defined chapters. But within that, there needs to come a point where a chapter closes. They're like a clearly defined close of chapter. Absolutely. And that's what that sounds like for you was a really important self-realization that's hard to do, especially you were 18, 19 years old, like a deep self-realization to close that chapter and make some significant decisions.
Yes.
I have a question. Going back to the Hershey School, did they direct students toward entrepreneurship or was it just sort of general education? I wonder with the student population going there, seeing that, what the percentages that had a realization like you did, where it was like, this happened because somebody took a risk, they were an entrepreneur and it worked. I want to go do that.
Yeah. They did not push entrepreneurship. There are some very successful people that came from there. Jason Wolf is one of them. He's my mentor. He's in his 50s. He's sold 4 companies, one of them for over 9 figures.
Hmm.
So there are some, but I wouldn't say there's many. And this is why, because unfortunately, you have to change your environment to change. And I feel like the school still has an opportunity to get the families on board. Like the families have to change, or the child has to decide to leave Pennsylvania after college and
Yeah.
not go home. So I think like poverty is a cycle, unfortunately. And there are some people, and I don't want to speak negatively of the school, but it's about the environment. So entrepreneurship is not pushed. And also, there are still, unfortunately, some children that just don't get it, don't ever make it. They don't even utilize their scholarship. Now, that's a small percentage, but they still exist. And so I think it's risk plus environment changing that really is what's going to catapult somebody into success, especially having the makings of entrepreneurship. But no, they don't push
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. But I just think it's subconsciously in our back of our minds. Like, we're children, we can't really process what's going on. But by the time you turn 18 and you leave, an entrepreneur started that company, funded all of that. And so I think it's just, for me, it was the obvious and it was there subconsciously.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. So your post sociology class, you're pissed, you're making changes. Did you rush out and start a company, or did you finish school and deal with entrepreneurship later? They all blend together.
Yep. Nope. So I finished school. I did some reality TV, some plus size modeling. I fulfilled my dreams. And, I finished school. I finished school and I had a really great time. I had internships at Ernst & Young, and I really thought in college I was going to take the corporate route. I ended up changing my major to accounting at one point, landed this huge internship at Ernst & Young in which we were on the fast track to become a partner and get a job right after graduation. And so for me, I did finish school, and I thought for sure, you know what, I'm just going to make a lot of money through the corporate world. That's what I thought my plan was. Graduated college, and I thought to myself, I'm going on these interviews, and I thought to myself, I just cannot do this. Something in my stomach was like, I cannot work this corporate life. I'm getting sick. I have a big personality, but I'm an introvert. I really get charged being by myself with my own vision and my own thoughts. So I just started to have this little gut feeling. I said, this can't be it. I cannot take a corporate job. I don't care if I have to pay the student loans off. I can't. So I decided to keep nannying, honestly. I'm like, you know what? Nannying pays cash. I'm 21, you're 22 years old, whatever. Like, I can figure it out later. So I kept nannying and I avoided the corporate route. Well, after doing the nannying and trying to become a plus size model, it wasn't working. And I'm like, okay, I think I've got to start a business. Now, this is in 2011, 2012 at the height of Shark Tank coming out. So I was a recent college grad, broke, having to pay my student loans, nannying, didn't opt for the corporate route with my good salary. So I was home on Friday nights when Shark Tank would air. And it was pretty new and popular. So what would I do? In my apartment, I would watch Shark Tank every single Friday. And I really enjoyed it. And I feel that Shark Tank really, really put it in me to start a business. I would see these pitches every single week. And I'm like, this is a great idea. This is a great idea. You know what? I think I can do it. So I bought a business book off Amazon, literally called How to Start a Business. And I followed the steps. And I looked at starting businesses. So I had 3 different ideas. 2011, I'm like, okay, I've got to get out of this nannying thing. Clearly, I didn't go the corporate route. What am I going to do? So I started kind of panicking. I'm like 23 years old at this point. I'm like, oh, shoot, I've got to figure this out. My mom's like, when are you getting a real job? You took out these student loans. What are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to figure it out. Long story short, I am like, okay, Shark Tank, 3 business ideas. I'm looking at these 3 business ideas, and I'm also looking at my bank account, and I'm like, okay, I don't have that much money. I don't have that much money. So let's look at the business, see how much it's going to cost to start. So I had 3 ideas, and I chose them around my passion because I believe and I know people have different thoughts on this, but I believe for me, when I'm passionate about something, it doesn't feel like work. So I chose the beauty industry, and I looked at a makeup company, I looked at an eyelash company, and I looked at a hair extension company. So I wanted to do this makeup idea, and it just was going to require too much money for capital for inventory. So I said, okay, this is not going to work for me. I don't have the money. I looked at doing eyelashes and selling eyelashes. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not good with my hands. This isn't going to be a good idea. And then the third option I landed on was hair extensions. And I loved hair extensions. I've been wearing them since 14. And so that's how I landed on my first business, which ended up going off to be a success with an 8-figure exit, bootstrapped it, and it was life-changing. But I started with my hair extension business, Glam Seamless, in 2012. $1,500, literally put $500 into product, $500 into like a designer helping me get up the rest of my Shopify store, and $500, and I'm not sure what I spent the other $500 on, but it was $1,500. And I bought 2 colors, which most extension brands have 30, 40, 50 colors. I bought 2 colors. I made my own stickers on the packaging, and I just started writing blogs and doing YouTube videos about hair extensions. So pick something that I loved, and then I started adding a lot of value. Now, I'm an expert in this field. I've been wearing extensions for over 10 years at that point. So I just started writing about all things extensions. And I didn't know it at the time, but what I was doing was SEO, right? Search engine optimization. And I didn't have any money for advertising. So SEO is really what blew the business up. So after the first year, and we're talking about 0 paid ads, 0 team members, 20,000 in revenue. And I thought to myself, okay, it's not profit, but the sales are there. And I'm like, this is working. There's something here. Still have my nanny job, still taking odd plus size modeling jobs. But I'm like, okay, I can see the traction. Year 1. Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, right? Kevin O'Leary, he says, if something is not making you money in 2 to 3 years, take it in the barn and shoot it, right? Right? Take it behind the barn and shoot it. This was working. And so that was the making of Glam Seamless. It was passion. It was, being scrappy and resourceful. And it was SEO because I didn't have any money for ads or influencer. Now, what I will say, there's always luck and there's timing. If anyone says that isn't an equation in their business, they're wrong. I truly believe that it was timing and choice that helped me become successful when I did. Number 1, there wasn't that many online hair extension brands at the time. Hair extensions were sold in a different way, in a different business model. They were sold B2B. They were sold through distributors only. They were sold in brick and mortars. No one had really occupied the online extension space at that time. Now, I didn't know that, but looking back, I'm like, oh, great timing. The second thing that happened in 2012 when I started my business is there's about 8 or 9 different types of extensions that a woman or a person could wear. I chose a specific type that was very new to the industry. So it was a 2-year-old product. So it's really about timing, right? It's not about money. It's not about having the best team, although those things obviously always can help. That doesn't help necessarily. That does not dictate if a business is going to be successful or not. It was the timing and it was the product choice.
I would add to that it was also the constraints.
Mm-hmm.
There is something magic about having to figure it out and do it in a different way because there are constraints placed on a business.
Yes.
You literally can open a business publication, Google something on the internet, and you will see 10 million stories of companies that went and raised a bunch of money early on. And because they didn't have the constraints, they went and spent it in all sorts of flippant, ridiculous ways, trying to figure things out. And man, there is so much beauty in that. The fact that you had a constraint, you may not have wanted the constraint, but you had it.
Right.
In that you had $1,500 to start with, a magic constraint, but then you also made a choice. And that was to add constraint to the business by being very selective on a specific. That's another huge mistake early stage operators make all the time, right? They go out and try to sell like 72 versions of the same thing, which means your inventories are spread super thin. It's really hard to work through the noise and figure out which one works and which one doesn't work. Go out with 1 or 2 versions in one color, and that's it. That's a beautiful, beautiful constraint. And I will add timing. I 100% agree. And I say the same thing. There's always luck involved. You can never plan for it. It's not a strategy. So let's not pretend it is. Right. But timing is one of those things that you look back at and you're like, shoot, that was lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like what you say about constraints because fast forward after my exit, I had some cash around. Right. I wanted to diversify. Right?
Yeah, let's talk about that because I've done that too.
So when you talk about constraints, I'm like, I think I just had a therapy healing moment.
Yeah.
Because I ended up plowing $500,000 into an athleisure company for plus size women. And let's just say the sales have not even topped $50,000. So there were no constraints. And I also was doing too much. I was doing too many businesses and this and that. And I just thought, you know what? I have money. I can hire people. I can just, there you go. This is easy. And I like the idea of having constraints because this is something we need to talk about. But yes, I digress.
No, I mean, Alexandra, I'm literally the exact same. In Pentane, that was an organic, didn't mean to start a company, started a company. It's like, well, shoot, I have money now. This is a way different situation going and starting up. And now finally, like 2 years into it, it's actually working, which is awesome. And that's great. And it's growing. But the 2 years up to that, I look back at and go like, holy hell, was I reckless?
Yeah.
Because I didn't raise money. Like I was spending my own money.
Yep. I spent my own money.
There are so many things that I look back and I was like, why the hell I tried this thing and it cost $70,000. Like I should have started the company with $70,000 total. I should have capped it personally.
Yes. I feel like money is the last thing you need when it comes to being successful, right? Being resourceful, being scrappy, having to make good decisions, because when you have the money, you'll just spend it. And sometimes it's like, it's not always the right thing to spend it on. So yeah, that looking back, I was very scrappy, very lean. All the money that I made from the business, I put right back into the business. And so back in 2012, first year, 120,000 in sales. Next year, $500,000. Next year after that, 1.5 million. And it just took off. Year after that, 5 million and then 10 million. So that all happened in a 6-year trajectory. Owned the company 100% myself. Kept it very lean, probably too lean, burnt myself out. I wish looking back that I would have invested more into a team and I would have invested more into myself to be a better leader, to help them get to do the things I wanted to do. You know, there's a saying like, if you want something done, do it yourself. That's like an entrepreneur saying that is a bad saying. It's a bad motto, because you know what you really need to do is teach people your ways. But I didn't have the leadership skills in my 20s to really let my team know, like, this is how I want it done. So I ran the company very lean. I don't know why, just because we kept investing into the profits of the business. And I never saw this coming, but there happened to be a roll-up in my industry. And what that means is basically there's a strategic partner that's going to go and buy up all the competition, so then they can go roll that up and sell it to them. I like to say it's like a big gambling for these men. They have no interest. I don't even want to say men, groups of investors.
Yeah.
They have no interest in the category. They have no interest in the customer. It's a money game for them. It's like they're gambling for fun. It's like, hey, we're going to buy these businesses. We're going to turn around and Forex it. And it's like, that's what they're doing. And they literally did too. So there was a roll up in the hair extension industry. And I started seeing my other competitors getting bought out. And I'm like, this is really interesting. Like, what is going on here? Next, they came knocking at my door because we were one of the top 3 extension businesses in the entire category of direct consumer extensions. Get this call in 2018. Hey, we'd like to buy your business. I said, yeah, no, thank you. I'm good. They came again knocking. Hey, we really want to sit down. We really want to buy this business. I said, no, thank you. Then a second person, not related, not a part of this organization, another firm reached out and said they wanted to buy my business. So now I'm starting to realize, like, I'm getting a lot of requests here. This is really interesting. The ego in me wanted to hold on to it. But I said, you know what? Let me just take a meeting. Let me take a meeting and let's just see. So I met with both of these firms that wanted to acquire the business. And I said, how can I help you? Now, I had no intention of selling. Zero, because why would I? I was having fun. I had my team. I had like 30 employees. It was fun. It was profitable. It was everything. I was so happy. I was stressed. No, it wasn't like a miracle. It wasn't like a dream business, but it was great. I took a meeting with one of them and they said, listen, we want to buy this business and we would like you to stay on. We want you to stay on. We want you to run the company how you see fit. We're basically just going to fund you and we're going to give you a big check, right now so you can continue to come on and do it. At the time I had my accountant with me, Andy. I love him so much. He took the meeting with me. And he's an Italian New Yorker and he's in his 50s and he knows business. And I said nothing and he said, listen, this is what we want. So you always got to have an advisor with you, because I think if I would have taken that meeting by myself, I think they would have crushed me entirely. These businessmen with their PE firms and I'm like, I would have gotten crushed. Like, looking back.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally what they do for a job. That's their whole job, is to do that.
Yes. Yes. So long story short, I had several conversations with this company that wanted to buy my business, and they gave me a really low, what I felt was a lowball offer for a company that was growing 100% year over year. They offered me a 6 or 7 multiple, and I said, "Yeah, I'm not interested." I said, "You're going to pay me off of revenue, and that's what I want. My multiple is off of revenue." And I literally was joking, right? So it's always good to be in a place where you don't need or want whatever that is, because desperation is an energy that everyone can feel. And I didn't care. I really didn't care to sell my business. Like, I really don't care. But what I will say is I was getting to that point in my business where it was getting so big. It was already past $10 million a year in revenue. I had to either get an investor for a small minority stake or potentially entertain this. And so I just felt the pressure of like the inventory and the team. And I had never worked a real job. And now I'm running a $10 million plus organization. And I'm like, this is crazy. I'm literally 29 years old. I'm like, what am I doing? I have a 3-year-old. And I'm like, I felt like I was drowning at times. And so when these offers came in, I wasn't desperate, but I had an open ear. They ended up saying yes. I was joking. I literally was like, I want to be paid off of the multiple of my revenue, and that's it, or we're not having a discussion. And they agreed under the circumstance, which this was a huge mistake looking back, that I would stay on. And so I agreed to stay on. And I thought to myself, what a great learning opportunity to work with all these executives, to be on a board, to work with L. Catterton, to work with these large investors. Oh, this is amazing. And so I did stay on as a learning opportunity. I really didn't know how to run a P&L. My accountant did that. I didn't have anyone to answer to. So in terms of the sale, it was crazy. It literally just went through smooth, no hiccups, LOI, great legal team. When that money hit my bank account, I told them I want 50% up front, day one. And they're like, the rest are earnouts. And it was a life-changing moment. I will say that it was very life-changing, but not in the way that you would think in that moment. Like, you're like, oh, this is it. All my problems are solved. No, that's definitely not the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, the acquisition came through, and then I decided to stay on, and I was CEO within this whole company now. And that's where the real work and lessons really started.
If you're an early stage e-commerce brand doing anywhere from startup to 5 million a year in revenue, Pentane was built for you. It can help you operate more profitably. Just launched is a pulse check report. This shows you what's working, what's not working, and exactly what to do within your business. And this is not just general advice. It is very specific. Like, raise your prices by 4.6% to get to break even, or you need to hit a 2.34 return on ad spend in order to remain profitable with your marketing. It's far better than a report you'd get from an outsourced CFO that would cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And right now it is totally free. Head to pentane.com/pulse check to learn more. We have a lot of parallels, some dissimilarities, but a lot of parallels in how Bottle Keeper and the transaction took place, and being bootstrapped and having constraints on the business that forced us to think and act and operate certain ways that built a really healthy, profitable business that never had investors. And we also got acquired by a private equity firm because one day we had the same, very similar thing, companies coming and asking. And one day we're just like, we're kind of tired of this. Like, let's just start listening.
And what year was that for you all?
That was 2020.
No, I mean, how many years did you have the business at that point?
We started like air quote started in 2013. We really didn't kick off until 2014. But had a similar, like 2014, we did 150,000 in sales, all of which was in like the last 2 months of the year. 2015, we did 1.8 million. 2016, we did 8 million. We had no employees. Like, it was wild.
That's insane.
But it was, we were both just like holding the tiger by the tail. It was Matt, my cousin, and I started that company. And that was very quickly at the end of 2018. I took a dry erase board and put all these things on it that I was doing that I should not be doing. And I just started circling things that we needed to hire for. So we did start building a small team then. But fast forward, I mean, that was in 2016. Our first team member came on in 17, and we were on Shark Tank. talking about Shark Tank in 2018 when we were way too big to be on Shark Tank, but it was really fun. And then got acquired in 2021. But I had a very similar experience.
7 years. For me too. It was,
yeah.
7 years. So
you go to the end of it and it's like this crazy up and down, and the private equity thing, like that was a hard deal. Like the transaction was really difficult. And at the end of it, at the end, it's like you get a wire.
Yeah.
Yeah. The due diligence is brutal. I mean, I get it. It's a lot of money, but
of course.
and you get a wire and you expect it to be over, but it's not. It's just the beginning.
No. And did you have earnouts? You had earnouts you had to stay on as well?
Most of it was up front. We had a little bit of an earnout, and I did have to stay on, but it was only through the end of the year to oversee the transition. But that was a requirement. That was like we are out. We're not dragging along forever. I mean, we had 2 acquirers going at it with each other, which was awesome. So we got
that's how you do it.
We got to be dictating.
That's how you do it.
Did.
So you guys wanted to walk away.
Yes.
Okay. You were like, so they didn't ask you to stay on. No.
Well, they wanted us to, but it was a non-starter.
And so I wish that was my biggest mistake, was staying on. So I look at, my company Glam Seamless was acquired in 2019. It's 2025 now. I stepped down at the end of 2022. So basically all of 23, 24, 25, I've been free from this company. I don't want to say free, but it was a ride. So I think my biggest mistake after the acquisition was simply staying on. I should have done a 3 or 6 month transition, and I should have walked away. For whatever reason, I was very excited by the idea of learning. I was very excited by the idea of being involved in this $1 billion corporation and working with big investors and learning. And, I really took on the challenge. And so I went from entrepreneur to a corporate employee. And although they allowed me to do whatever I wanted the first year, like I was spending their money left and right. I spent $200,000 on a website. It was ridiculous. The things that I should have done, they really let me get away with, and it was wrong. It was not good. But spending money, now I had their money. I'm like, yeah, $200,000 on a website, $60,000 on a photo shoot. Yeah, like awful. Not good. I did end up doubling the sales for them in 2 or 3 years. I doubled the revenue, the EBITDA, the profit. And so it was going good, but then they started acquiring more brands and their organization started getting even larger, very complex. And I technically had this boss and it didn't go well. It didn't go well. She was a 20-year corporate employee, never been an entrepreneur. And she was in charge of all these founders and entrepreneurs. And we were all bumping heads, between the way you run a corporation and the way that founders see the vision for their business. And so it was a huge learning curve working in this corporation. And it was my biggest mistake because it really killed my entrepreneurial spirit. It took me years to recover and I was burned out and I didn't realize it. So it's like already I was burned out from growing it from, 0 to over $10 million by myself with no experience. But then I stayed on and took it from 10 million to 22 million in another 3 years. And I was literally exhausted. I just couldn't do it anymore. So ended up deciding to leave end of 2022. I had just had my second baby and I said, it's time. It's time for me to go. It's time for me to part ways, and ended up stepping away 2023. Luckily for me, I only had a 2-year non-compete. So I'm actually getting back into the extension industry. Long story short, during those 2 years, it took a lot of time to just heal from that burnout and the corporate life. Corporations are ran a certain type of way, and they have to be when there's that amount of money involved. And so it was a lot of unlearning from the corporation, and I started a new startup and it didn't go the way I wanted it to. I ended up going to Harvard last year, did a innovation course. That's really what I do well as a founder. I think it's very important to know what you do well. And I'm really good at product development. I'm not great at operations and P&Ls, right? And so I studied innovation, and one of the case studies that we looked at Harvard was OnStar lost money for 7 years. But in its 8th year of business, after losing money, continuing to putting money, it took off and they made all their money back. And obviously, it ended up working well. So it reminds me of my startup, Tribe 35, which I was just trying to fill my time. Like I went from running this $22 million company to doing nothing. I mean, of course I have my kids, but they're in school. Like they have their own life. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm here to generate, to create. Of course, I started a foundation and I filled my time up with as much that I could, but I love the game of business. For me, it's fun creating a product that customers need, that they love, that they appreciate. That really fills me up. It just does. And so, yeah, the last couple of years have been eye-opening for me. And I feel like I've had my most growth in the last years of stepping away, reevaluating everything, throwing $500,000 into a startup and it not going. And I'm like, my ego is bruised. And so it's been a journey, to say the least.
What would you do, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently with Tribe 35 if you were going to restart it tomorrow?
So I started Tribe 35 with too much money. I think we need to put a cap on. I don't care how much money you have. I think we should put a cap of like, hey, this is more research. I would have done more research of like how much it costs, because I truly believe, because there's so many competitors in the athleisure space, that I needed more than the $500,000 that I was going to allocate to it. And really, I said I was going to allocate $250K. Then it ended up being $500K. And I'm like, if I keep going, it's going to be $1 million. And so I think looking back, I started it when I was doing too much. Like I still was in Glam Seamless running it as CEO. I hired my best friend to come and create this company for me. I was directing her on the weekends of like, hey, do this, do that. No, I should have waited. I wasn't ready for Tribe 35, right? And because I wasn't ready and because I wasn't paying attention, money was just flying out the door. I told my best friend, hey, here's $250,000, just figure it out. Like, and obviously I didn't like put $250,000 in her bank account, but it's like, I'm like, yeah, we have a budget. Oh yeah, it's fine. Hire this person. Oh yeah, go ahead and do that. And it just, I was doing too much. You need to focus. I needed to focus, and I'm running my nonprofit and I'm having a baby and I'm still the CEO of Glam Seamless. And I'm thinking, well, I have the money and the experience. Like, of course, this is going to be easy. Of course. Did we create an amazing product? Yes. To this day, there's no other legging that's for my body. Our customers are coming back 2 and 3 times. So that's the reason why Glam Seamless was acquired, because the repeat purchase rate was so high that it was such a profitable business. Same thing with Tribe. I've built an amazing product. Customers are coming back. But also what I would say is I'm just not that passionate about clothing, right? Like I'm just not. I don't care to say there's too much fat. I'm not passionate about it. And so it goes back to my original theory of like, when it's passion, for me, it doesn't feel like work. So I'm able to give it its all, if that makes sense.
It does. I think that there's an incredible amount to be said about being passionate about what it is you do. I don't necessarily, from my experience, like Bottle Keeper, I wasn't passionate about stainless steel beer bottle koozies.
Yeah.
Like it was just a thing.
Yeah.
I was passionate about the building of the thing and the strategy and the process and the structure and doing it in a really unique, different way. That is what I loved about the company.
And where did you get that from? Where did you have the insights? Did you have a corporate job before that? Like I didn't see, like, where did you get the strategy and the insights to grow Bottle Keeper to what it was?
So part of it was experience and part of it was also scar tissue from that experience. It was, I was a partner in a company before that was a medical health tech thing. I was an employee of a company before that was a medical device company. That I had an incredible amount of scar tissue coming out of because it was brutal and psychotic. And I learned an incredible amount of what not to do. And so it was from that experience. And then I sold out of the tech company in 2013. We started in 2008. It was going into Bottle Keeper. That's what I created those guardrails from. It was like, I'm never going to do that again. So I'm going to go build a company that has 0 employees. I want to be able to operate it from anywhere in the world with internet. And that was just a guardrail.
Did you all have, like, what was the most revenue, if you're allowed to say, what was the highest revenue Bottle Keeper got to, and how many employees?
We did. So our employee count varied. It's funny because like Pentane is built on this system that I created at Bottle Keeper that my cousin and I ran the company on, which was all about understanding how to pull the right levers around ad spend and understanding where the profit is coming from so you can go do more of that thing to get more profit. But a big piece of that is understanding how adding expenses to your business impacts the business. Because like if you hire 3 new people, you have to pay for those people. And if you don't pull the right lever in how you acquire customers, you're not going to drive enough revenue at the right margin in order to pay for those people, which means you're going to lose money, right? So we had all those things and I still completely threw it off the rails. I like just pretended it wasn't there when it was actually the year after Shark Tank. We did in 2018, the year of Shark Tank, we did 13.5 million. We had 4 employees. In 2000, we made about 1.8 million in net profit that year.
Right.
Going into 2019, I went, this is going to go on forever. Hired some people, opened a sweet office with an awesome roof deck in El Segundo, right on Main Street. It was awesome. Spent a ton of money, hired amazing people, but it like went away from the ethos of the business. And I like stopped listening to the data that I wrote the math for. And that year we did the same. We didn't grow. We did the same amount of money and we lost $1.5 million. We literally gave all the profit back that we made from the year before. And it was like a forced reset. We had to fire people that I really liked. We had to get rid of an office that was really nice, but it saved the company. Then we got bigger and eventually got acquired a couple of years later. But it was a, eye-opening moment to like literally eat the system that I created. And
yeah. And so your system is built on being very lean and profitable and not having a lot of employees?
No, it's built on it's built on creating an understanding of how, like, look, there's tons of different types of software, right? We have fintech software, we have tons of martech software and ad tech software, marketing, advertising, financial tech. In order for marketing tech software to actually be useful, it has to have information that exists in the financial side of the business. And that doesn't exist. So we created these systems using math that took an understanding of how the business spent money on employees and health insurance and cost of goods and product and shipping and fulfilling and advertising. And it takes the underlying math from that and applies it into the marketing side of the business, which is like, depending on the size of your company, you might need to spend, you've set your ad budget arbitrarily at $10,000 a month. You might need to be at a 27 return on ad spend to get to break even.
Arbitrarily.
Because it's not enough. Yeah.
And it's so arbitrarily. So before acquisition, I just was spending. And then when I finally got acquired and now we had a CFO and a P&L and they're like, 21% that X. And I'm like, what is this? So I learned how to manage a P&L, but I was just spending so much money. I don't even know how we got acquired the way that we did, because I'm like, looking back, I'm like, holy hell, like their accounting was much different than my accounting, right? And then you're talking about a parent company with like, they have their own charges that they're putting on my P&L for, group services. And so very interesting. Yeah. After the acquisition, I'm like looking, I love what you're building here at Pentane because I think it's so needed. I mean, I want it for my next hair extension company because we just grew bigger. And to your point, it's not about the optics and the employees and the great office. And like, those are fun, cushy things, but they do really eat into the profits of the business. At the end of the day, we are not in a nonprofit. We are a for-profit organization. So I have a lot to learn as I look at, I've created something new in the hair extension space, the first ever innovative product. I can't say yet, but I'm launching in January. I've worked the last year on it. My non-compete ended this year. Yeah. And I know how much I'm going to scale and how big this company, I hope. I'm like, I hope, but I feel it in my soul, knowing what I know about extensions, where the industry is. And I think about scaling it. But the one thing that really keeps me up at night is I'm like, how do I not burn out? How do I keep it lean? How do I not, spend too much here or there? And so those things do keep me up at night because now ignorance is bliss. And so before the acquisition, like I'm just spending arbitrary, to your point, $300,000 a month in ads. Yeah, it makes sense. No, my parent company, then I went the opposite. So ignorance is bliss over here pre-acquisition, then get acquired. And I'm reporting to a CFO who has like 30, 40 years experience. He's like, Alexandra, we've got to reel this ad spend in. We've got to, this is your CMB. I'm like, CMB, compensation and benefits. I'm like, I'm learning all these acronyms. I'm like, oh my goodness. So it was a learning curve, but I think founders and entrepreneurs don't always have a strong grip on the P&L, the terms. Yeah. And like, we have a financial fiduciary responsibility to this P&L. And, yeah, I'm super interested. When I saw Pentane, that's why we had those conversations like 6 months ago, but I wasn't ready because I'm in development. But how you run the company is so important. It's not just about the optics of this is an amazing brand, sales are $20 million, we have the best office. It's like, at the end of the day, what is the bottom line here? right? Because when that acquisition offer comes, you want that profit to show the highest, right? They're going to purchase you most likely, unless you're in an industry like I was where sales are booming, booming, booming. There's a roll up. They're going to pay you off of your profits and your clean books. So if you don't have that, it's done. It's you're not gonna get as much as you could. And looking back, I could have sold Glam Seamless for 3 or 4 times had I had a system like this, Pentane. I could have sold for more because to your point, the business gets too bloated and then we can't be profitable. So much to chat about.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, that to me, that's the whole point is like most people start a company because they have an idea and they create that thing and then people start buying the thing, which is awesome. And you're like, cool, I'm CEO. I mean, like that's it. And that's a beautiful, amazing thing. There's so much magic in that. But there is this side of the business that we can't pretend is not there. I mean, you can pretend it's not there, but it's going to bite you at some point.
Yeah.
You might get lucky for long enough.
Yep.
And that's okay. But like, if we can just take that off the shelf and just deal with that with, math and tech, let you focus on building and let you focus on product and customer and the things that's why we start companies. It's not to deal with financial stuff. It's because of the customer and the experience and, that part of the business. But so shifting gears a little bit, you have this amazing upbringing that, may at the time may not have felt amazing, but looking back at it, I mean, it clearly made you who you are. Again, that's a chapter. That's a very important chapter in your book. Are there things that you do today or practices that you have today, that you've carried forward that like help you deal with, you're still doing it, like still operating as an entrepreneur, help you deal with these ups and downs?
From my childhood? Is there anything from my childhood?
Anything that you've developed over the years, or, are you a journaler, a meditator, religious exerciser? Like everybody generally has something.
Yeah. For me, I'm definitely into the journaling. I'm not so much a meditator, although I wish I was. The studies are there about what meditation does for one in their brain. I journal a lot. And I also just go to this place of inner peace of like, I'll put on the Calm app. If I'm having like a really tough time in life, I will put on the Calm app and I will, distance myself from the phones and the computer and everything. You've got to step away because in this day and age, we're so overstimulated with being connected to online that you don't realize it, but it has a crazy effect on you. You just start to not feel well. You're overstimulated. You're not performing at your best. So I have these periods throughout the year where I literally 2 to 5 days, the phone is put away. At the top of January last year, I went to a retreat, an Ayurvedic retreat for 5 days. Completely left my phone. I told my family, you know exactly where I am here in Santa Monica. If you need me, call them if there's an emergency, but this is where I'm at. So I think disconnecting, journaling, and being honest with oneself is just key, because how are we going to continue to have the vision to be the leader that we need to be for an organization if we don't step away and recalibrate ourselves? So those are my go-tos: stepping away, journaling. That helps me come back as a stronger leader and a stronger visionary, which we all know that's really what a company thrives off of.
Yeah. Building that step away into your life is magic. I mean, I have all sorts of things that force me to step away from a computer. Now, in a software company, it's clearly very computer heavy, and that is not good for my brain for more than
What are
an
some
hour
of
or two
your
at a time.
things? What are some of your things for you to step away?
When you talked about the experience after the acquisition and sort of like staying really busy, and in hindsight, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. I did that as well. Like post-acquisition, I had a performance coach, who the timing was just kind of fortuitous, who was helping me through the transition. And the one thing he told me, and he had coached some of the most famous entrepreneurs and athletes that have ever existed, at least in our generation, that he sees across as a theme for these people is when they're transitioning between something significant, that they never want to take time to let that thing process. They always want to go out and like just do it again, jam a square peg into a round hole over and over and over. And I've obviously felt that. Like transaction closes, I stay on for 6 or 7 months to oversee, and then I'm like, what am I gonna, a week of doing nothing, I'm like, I'm gonna lose my mind. Yep. Oh, what am I gonna do now? And his name is Dr. Jeff. He's like, no, you got to sit still, pick up a hobby. Yep. So I started doing woodworking. Like I figured out, I know, like I'd never done that before. Like I built a mudroom and my kids' beds and remodeled the kitchen. And I figured out through that process that I function dramatically better when I have something in my life that I'm building with my hands. So like I make old wooden signs, like
love that with the light behind.
So I have to have something like that. So right now I'm rebuilding a 1994 Land Rover Defender, like this old awesome truck, because it's like a thing. I can just, in the middle of sitting at a computer for 3 hours, I can go into the garage and spend an hour doing it. And when I come back to the computer, I am 90 times more productive.
Yeah.
I have to have something like that in my life that I'm doing creatively with my hands.
That's awesome. It's amazing.
Well, this has been super fun. Where do you want people to find you, find Tribe 35, if that's where you want to direct them?
Yeah.
Or maybe even the next top secret thing.
Yeah, the next, I'm not announcing it yet, but it's coming soon. It's going to be huge. So I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram, Alexandra Cristin. So those are the two main places you'll find me. Cristin. And yeah, any entrepreneur out there, really take the time to understand your business and continue to invest in yourself, because that's where the greatest returns are. When you are well, when you are feeling good, everyone else feels it. Everything else flows and follows. And that is the magic of like putting oneself first so that everything else, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And it really is true.
It's beautifully said. Completely agree. Thanks a ton for coming,
Yes,
Alexandra.
thank
Appreciate
you. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm supposed to stay on here, right?
A huge thanks to our guests today. Don't forget, this is powered by Pentane Financial and Advertising Command Center for Consumer Brands. Stop what you're doing, put your phone down, walk away from the computer screen, go outside, get some air, do something hard, push your limits, get uncomfortable, become more durable and more resilient. Create the stamina required to get through those entrepreneurial barriers. Stay in the game for as long as you can, and we will see you next time.